Hi, my name is Jacqueline Roberts, and this is my case study, Everyday Counts for AEP 858. So in summary, like all schools, Golden Oaks High School has areas of pride as well as areas of growth, which in this case is student attendance. So Mr. Rhodes is a first-year principal at Golden Oaks High School. There's just under 1,000 students. They have lots of school-sponsored activities, including 11 team sports and 31 clubs. They've had more diverse student population in recent years with a lot of Hispanic and Asian families moving into the area. The community is mostly middle-income families with some high income and some in poverty. And many parents commute to the adjacent metropolitan city, and so they're usually commuting 1 to 2 hours every day. And Golden Oaks High School does have a low staff turnover. The superintendent, Dr. Newman, discusses with Mr. Rhodes very early on after he gets hired the most pressing concern at Golden High School, which is their school attendance. They used to have pretty good school attendance. In fact, they had the best school attendance in the district, and now I think they have just about the worst. So the attendance policy allows excused absences only for illness, death in the immediate family, inclement weather, or a valid reason that's been excused by the principal with prior approval. Students are only allowed to miss 3 days from school for personal reasons. And then additionally, if they've had 5 unexcused absences in a class, teachers have the authority to deduct 10 points from the student's total grade. And then Dr. Newman also mentions that there is a positive relationship between social services and the juvenile court and the district. So he would like us to utilize these to remedy the attendance problem. So to continue, just to prove they really do have a significant attendance issue, 68% of the student population missed more than 10 days of school in just the first semester. So Mr. Rhodes kind of collects data on student attendance and really highlights 5 different students, and so we'll go over briefly these 5 various students. So first is Karen. She's a junior. She did join National Honor Society in her sophomore year, but grades have declined this year. She was married this past August, and the school counselor did meet with her. However, Karen's parents requested a conference with some of her teachers, and it doesn't seem like that has happened yet. Karen also failed to take a midterm exam due to an absence. Tyrone is a sophomore, also in the honors program, but has had average progress in his classes this year. Then he's missed a total of 10 days just for trips that he's taken with his family. He missed 5 days going to Washington, D.C., and a note was written from his mom, and then 5 days with a trip to Canada with his dad, and his dad had written a note, and then his homeroom teacher noted that she would excuse a second week's absence from school, even though that does not align with their attendance policy. Christina is a freshman. Her minister signed letters asking her to be excused from school for out-of-town church meetings. And her homeroom teacher approved these as excused absences. Her algebra teacher did request a conference with her parents due to missing 2 major exams, and her grades are not doing so well. She's got 2 C's and 1 D. Then we have Carl, who's a sophomore. He takes some general education classes and some vocational classes off campus. The truant officer was called to visit his home, and the officer reported back that his parents don't support strong attendance. His dad also did not graduate from high school. And his father had the attitude that it was family's business. In fact, he said that it was the family's business and not controlled by the school, which is not the case. And then Carl also has 2 younger siblings that Mr. Rhodes is concerned about. Finally, we have John, who's a junior. He's a quarterback on the football team. He suffered an injury before school started, and he missed the first 2 football games. And because of this injury, he misses school every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon for physical therapy. The athletic director also excuses John from Friday afternoon classes during the football season to rest. So he's missing 3 afternoons a week. And a little bit of background on the athletic director. He's been at the school for 10 years and has coached teams to 5 state championships. And then John's teachers did not report absences as excessive. So as you can see, there's a lot of parents, students, community members, teachers, various staff members that are involved in kind of not following the attendance policy. So staff across the school either have never been informed of, forgotten, or have disregarded the school and state's attendance policy, which negatively impacts students' education as well as social emotional well-being. So staff are not following the district's attendance policy, which is aligned with state law. Therefore, existing laws have been contravened. The law requires children to attend school, and parents are required to get them to school. And this was a court case back in 1944, Prince versus Massachusetts, that determined this. There is also possibility of breach of contract as well as discriminatory actions. So to kind of sum this up, community members, parents, staff, and students of Golden Oaks High School are not following the district's attendance policy. This has a negative impact on students. So Principal Rhodes is determining action steps to remedy the problem. So there are definitely some unknown facts so far in this case that need to be gathered and analyzed. We really want to look at some data points, including perceptions data from all stakeholders, from the staff, students, parents, and community. I think we really want to look at student learning data. We know that it's important for kids to be at school to learn, and so it would be really interesting to look at how student learning has been affected. We also definitely want to look at demographic data. We would want to look at that anyway, but especially since the demographics have been changing. And then also school processes. We want to look and analyze all of those data points. The known facts, here is what we do know as far as who is involved and where it takes place. So we kind of mentioned there's a lot of people involved. The superintendent, Dr. Newman, the principal, Mr. Rhodes, school counselor, maybe more than just the one we've heard about, the athletic director, social workers, teachers, community members, parents, and definitely students. This does take place in a suburban community with increasingly diverse families, and like I mentioned, mostly middle income, but some high income and some families in poverty. And it's a mid-sized public high school, grades 9 through 12, but they do have pride in the amount of team sports and clubs provided, as well as a strength as having low staff turnover. We can't assume anything, but here is what is true. The current attendance situation is damaging to students, staff, families, and community. It really does have a negative impact on the larger community and not just students. All stakeholders definitely need to be consulted throughout this kind of solution to remedy the problem. And there is enough information to know there is a problem, and therefore we can begin to remedy it. So considering options and possible consequences, as a principal, I really need to consider all of my options and what their effects would be. So option one is to take no action. You would just let things continue the way they are. Option two is to place staff who have not upheld the attendance policy on an improvement plan. Additionally, send all 659 students with more than 10 absences a warning letter. So option two is really kind of a top-down aggressive approach, whereas option three kind of is in the middle. It involves a lot of various people and various steps, but it kind of meets in the middle of option one and two. So option three includes continuing to build positive relationships with individual staff, students, parents, and community members. Send a newsletter with data around attendance, as well as the effects attendance has, positive effects as well as negative effects of having good and bad attendance. Provide staff trainings and professional development. They need to be aware of the policies and the expectations, as well as how to uphold that. I think an important part of the process would be to send surveys to all stakeholders to help gain perception data. really find out what's happening behind the scenes, kind of the culture and the thought that people are having. Create a diverse team, create a diverse data team and or dropout prevention committee, and we definitely would want to involve social services and juvenile court. As Dr. Newman said, that there's a good relationship with these people, with these systems, and so I think we can definitely utilize them for hopefully positive changes. Then we could also have one person or small group of people, perhaps an attendance secretary, approve or not approve absences. So rather than having teachers approve or not approve students' excused absences, we could really be more consistent and just kind of take that load off the teachers and put it into the role of one or a few people's hands. Also, we would want to develop an attendance intervention plan. So this would involve, starting fresh and saying, okay, if a student has 5 unexcused absences, then a counselor will be assigned to them and they'll have a conversation, they'll have a meeting. If a student then reaches 8 unexcused absences, there's going to be another step that we take to really try to solve the problem before it becomes greater. And so developing that attendance intervention plan would be super important. Also, we could send truancy letters and follow through with appropriate legal actions. I think it's essential that we are following the law. And then we definitely need to communicate with all stakeholders. So keeping people in the loop is important as well. So let's consider the pros and cons if our ultimate goal is doing what's best for kids. So option 1, the pros would be that as a principal, I wouldn't create waves, kind of let things keep going the way they're going. The cons obviously are quite great. However, there's negative impact on students' academic success and their social emotional well-being, as well as negative impact on all stakeholders. Option 2, the pros would be that attendance might improve. This is really the top-down approach. The cons would be that it would really cause tension and negative relationships, I think, especially between the principal and all stakeholders, but also I think it could really cause negative relationships between teachers and students and teachers and families, because they would be the ones needing to enforce it. Option 3, the pros would be that it addresses the attendance problem while still valuing people and culture. And I think it would really be a sustainable change. The only con would be that it would take some time to resolve the issue. It would not solve itself overnight. The best option, I think, is certainly option 3. It involves numerous actions yet values all stakeholders. So as we're doing this, we want to keep our school's mission and vision in mind. It's essential that sources of pride and hard work is celebrated. School culture must remain positive and healthy while changes are made to positively impact students. We definitely want to involve all stakeholders, especially students. And again, the juvenile court and social services, we can use those community resources to our benefit. And again, we want to collaborate, build relationships, and communicate. So implementing the decision, my plan of action must consider the effects on all stakeholders. So first, I would create a diverse team to collect and analyze data. Again, I want to make sure it's collaborative. I want to make sure we're data-driven. Second, I would communicate to all stakeholders goals around attendance rates and explain the why. Why are we making these changes? Third, I would utilize a collaborative decision-making process to make adjustments to how absences are approved. So for example, making it one person's responsibility to approve or not approve, as well as create an attendance intervention plan. Fourth, I would make sure staff is provided appropriate training and professional development. Fifth, I would create processes to continually evaluate our progress and hold staff and students accountable. So steps 1 through 4 are great, but we really have to follow through and check up on our progress. Are these steps actually making a positive change? And then if any of these are failing, I would reach out to peers and advisors for help. I think it's essential to be collaborative not only within my building, but be collaborative with my peers and my mentors to make sure we're really doing the best for students. Thanks.